I'm Sheri Harris, Sales Associate with Realty Masters, and we are getting ready to conduct a home inspection on your new home. So I know you have a few questions about the home inspection. Why is a home inspection so important? I have Paul with Pro1 Home Inspection Services to help answer some of these questions for our buyer.
A home inspection is really important because normally buying a home is normally someone's biggest purchase, and performing a home inspection, we go in there, we identify any deficiencies that are in the home, we make sure everything's functioning properly, and we identify any possible repairs before they possibly go into closing.
Okay, and what kind of deficiencies do you look for? I mean, what is a deficiency in a home?
Something that's not working the way it's supposed to be working. We go through the home, we canvass the entire home. Normally we start on the outside, then we get on top of the roof, and then we kind of work our way through the home. We look at plumbing issues and making sure there's no leaks, that there's the proper plumbing needed for everything to function properly. Electrical, we make sure everything's performing properly with the electrical, making sure the breakers are working properly, any GFCIs, AFCIs, making sure that if there's gas in the home, there are the proper
detection devices for carbon monoxide, that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
Okay. What about like the HVAC system? You guys check that out as well?
We do. Whether there's a heat pump or just regular electrical compressor and furnace, we'll go in and make sure that they're performing in hot and cold properly.
Okay.
And making sure that there's
adequate airflow,
adequate airflow, especially if there's gas. We want make sure there's combustible air coming from the attic in the HVAC closets.
Okay. What about the appliances? Do you check the appliances?
We do. We go through and we check the microwaves. We check the stovetop, the oven, making sure all of the electrical is working throughout the home. As far as like whirlpool tubs and anything else like in the garage, making sure the
garage door sensors are lined up.
Yep, and the irrigation system is working properly. So.
Okay, so you also check for safety issues, things that could potentially be a safety hazard?
Sure, and a lot of the safety issues we look at, making sure that the home is a proper GFCI protection, making sure that there are smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors in the home, making sure there's no open junction boxes in the attic or crawl space.
Okay. What about on the outside of the house? Do you do anything like with, I don't know, the driveways, concrete? Do you document any of that, or is any of that anything that a potential buyer needs to be concerned with?
Yeah, we try to let them know everything that we come across in the home. If there's some cracks in the driveway, we let them know about that. A lot of times with windows, if there are cut in the window screens or there's no sealant around the windows to prevent water from getting inside the home.
Right.
Also with the roof, we canvass the roof and make sure there are no missing shingles. Make sure there are no areas where water is going to get into the home. Because with the exterior of the home, water is the enemy, so we want to make sure water is not getting in the home.
Right,
So we look for any possible areas where water could penetrate.
Okay, do you guys get in the attic?
We do. We try and get everywhere we can. If we can fit there, then we get there.
Okay, what do you look for in the attic?
We're looking to make sure there's adequate insulation in the attic. Electrical, there's a lot of time there are electrical connections outside of a junction box. There are open junction boxes, which are potential fire hazards with all the insulation up there. If you have gas appliances in the home, like a gas furnace or a gas stove, making sure that the insulation is not too close to the type B vents.
Right, okay.
And making sure, like structurally, that there are no damaged trusses in the attic. And also we're looking at the sheathing in the attic too, because once you're on the roof, sometimes you're not able to see some of the areas where water could be getting in. But once you get into the attic, if you see any moisture on the sheathing in the attic, then there's potential problems there.
Okay. What about fences and gates and plants or vegetation around the house?
Yeah, with the fences, if they're leaning or if you have any broken slats, we identify those, and making sure the gates are closing and opening properly.
Oh, okay.
And when it comes to the what was the other
vegetation?
Yeah, the vegetation. We want to keep that away from the home. There needs to be at least a 1 foot clearance away from the home, because that just brings the moisture towards the home, which we want to try and prevent as much
Sure.
as possible.
Sure.
And also, a lot of times the trees are too close to the roof.
Kind of like this one.
It's a good example.
So basically on your report, on a situation like this, you would document it and maybe put your professional recommendation or per code or insurance purposes
Correct.
that this tree needs to be trimmed to where it is no longer touching the home.
Yeah, it's not good because it just brings the moisture towards the home when we want to keep the moisture away from it as much as possible.
Sure.
And when branches of a tree get wet, they kind of get sagging a little bit, and then in the high winds they rush back and forth on the
And can
shingles.
damage the roof.
And damage the roof. Yeah.
Okay. What about like chipped and peeling paint?
We identify those.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a lot of cosmetic issues that we
right?
identify, and with homes that are prior to 1978, we always want to point out that there's a possibility that there could be lead-based paint on the home
Okay.
if it's older than 1978.
Okay. Okay. What about the different type of electrical wiring? I know you mentioned GFCI Outlet. Yes. That is a what?
The ground fault circuit interruption.
Okay. And what is the purpose of a GFCI?
It is to prevent people from possibly getting electrocuted. Normally, in homes that are built nowadays, whenever you have a water source, GFCIs are required within 6 feet of like a sink. So in bathrooms and kitchens, every receptacle that's within 6 feet should be GFCI protected for safety.
Okay.
That way, if an electrical appliance that was plugged in falls into a sink, it would just shut off the breaker rather than potentially
catch fire.
Yeah,
Okay.
or harm someone.
Right.
That's maybe washing dishes. But
okay.
also with the exterior of the home, there's water hitting the outside of the home, so we want to make sure the receptacles are GFCI protected there.
Okay, and have protective covering, waterproof covering.
Yep.
Okay, okay, awesome. Well, I think that pretty much covers the gist of a home inspection. I personally, as a realtor, encourage all my buyers, even if you're just a cash investor, to have your home inspected to make sure that you are getting a nice, safe home without a bunch of major repairs. Just want to thank Paul with Pro1 Home Inspections for coming out and answering a few questions for us. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.